Hi, shit. Welcome back to the Emo Social Club.
You're doing great.
I know. We haven't had an episode in a while, so I forgot how to do it. And there's a dog on this one, so it's going to be really tough to...
It's our first time interviewing a dog.
Yeah.
Recent puppy school graduate.
Recent puppy school graduate.
That's of an hour ago.
Mushroom. Hi, welcome back. So we are interviewing a couple friends of ours in anticipation of our emo karaoke event. This is coming up the Monday before that. So this Wednesday, we'll be back at Emporium doing the emo karaoke, raising money for Our Music, My Body. And we have a couple guests to talk more about that. First, we have our returning guest, Maggie. If you want to introduce yourself.
Just a quick blurb.
Yeah.
Remind everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie. I'm comfortable with the she or they pronouns interchangeably. I am a prevention educator for resilience. So I spend most of my days hanging out with young people talking about consent. And then as campaign coordinator of Our Music, My Body, I spend my nights talking to older people about consent.
Yeah. Oh. And you can go ahead. It's our new friend, Elle, and her...
and Mushroom.
Sweet pup Mushroom.
Sweet pup. Okay.
Who tried to bite her face right after I said that.
Yeah, she's acting a little odd now. Hi, I'm Elle. I work for Between Friends as a prevention educator. So I do similar to Maggie. I go into schools, talk to middle school and high school kids about healthy relationships and warning signs of abuse and things like that. And then in the evenings, I work on the venue coordination end of getting people to be at all the shows that we work at and talking about safe music spaces and the likes.
She is trying to get comfortable right now.
Mushroom is not sure. Maybe she'll just chill. Yeah.
I'm really hoping that people will legitimately listen to this podcast just because they will hear a dog in it.
I mean, that's going to be the opening to the post is there's a dog that we interview.
There's a dog in this episode.
Everything else, the dog.
Yes. So this is, like I said, in anticipation of the emo karaoke to raise money for Our Music, My Body. Obviously, every time we've done this before, we've done it for Black Lives Matter. We've done it for Chicago Abortion Fund. We've been working with you guys as an organization pretty much since the beginning of our podcast because you guys are our third interview. Yeah. Our first interview, our third episode.
Yeah.
So maybe we want to go over a little bit of what your organization does again and kind of what we're raising money for, what the money is going to be used for, and just kind of why people will come and support you. Yeah. I'm not saying if they want to. I'm no, when you do, what are you supporting?
Well, you should.
Yeah.
And you're all there. I appreciate that. So Our Music, My Body is a campaign that lives between two anti-violence agencies, Between Friends, where Elle works, that focuses more on domestic violence support and prevention, and Resilience, where I hang out, that focuses more on survivors of sexual violence. And the Cliff Notes version of our story is that two prevention educators, one at each agency, were sort of members of their own local DIY music scenes respectively, and they were noticing / hearing stories of people experience a whole lot of sexual harassment, gender-based discrimination, all these things that we've heard about for years, and decided that they had the knowledge and the sort of tools to do some prevention work in that space specifically. And so they started the campaign, and that was about 3 years ago. And since then, it's only changed over 2 hands, as in it was handed to me and then it was handed to you. Yeah, and here we are. And we have sort of grown momentum the last couple of years, both in that, our partnerships have expanded throughout Chicago. We've done some travel in other states to do festivals elsewhere, which is exciting. And this year, we have interns.
We do have interns, and which is the true mark of a successful,
we really moved up in the world.
Nonprofit campaign.
How's that going for you guys?
They're great.
Yeah, they're so great.
They are very efficient.
Shout out to our interns. Truly though, I think the biggest, most exciting thing is that we're getting to a point now where we're able to start making some forward movement, whereas before we were really just kind of triaging, putting out fires. Now we're getting to a spot where we've established some relationships in the city, and we're able to make some moves.
Yeah, I feel like we're able to expand on all of our hopes and dreams of what we wanted to be able to do. For a long time, we were just on a treadmill trying to just make sure that we keep getting shit done. In time. Yeah. Moving bags from venue to venue. Yeah. Every other second.
Yeah.
And now we're moving on.
Yeah. Which is it was a great problem to have, because really it was happening because so many venues and festivals were oh my God, you guys exist. Let us give you everything. So it's not I'm complaining about that. No. More just we want to do more cool stuff. One thing we're trying to work out is a music ambassadorship program. So we want to find some musicians who dig what we're doing and want to help us spread the message.
So if that is you when you're listening, you should reach out to us and we can talk more, because we're still trying to figure out what that looks like and means and how we can support ambassadors and how they can support us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah.
What kind of things would a music ambassador help you out with? What would be a thing that you'd want a music ambassador to do?
I think just having concert goers who come to their shows know that there's somebody who is working with us and is trying to make sure that their spaces are safe for everyone who comes into them. Shouting us out on their social medias, working hard to create the spaces that we want all of the music spaces to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then having us at their shows. That's why we said reach out to us. We're still in very early stages of deciding what that's going to look like and how we can support each other if those partnerships emerge.
One really great thing that we have on our side is that one of our interns, Kate Ark, is in a band of her own. And so she has really kind of helped us understand what our work looks like from that side of the whole thing. We didn't really know. So something new that we've been working on with venues that we have partnerships in is putting something in the band advance, which, if you're unfamiliar, is basically the contract that every band gets before they play at a place. And the venue has one advance that's just kind of their general thing, and they sign the bottom and it's done. And so something that Kate let us onto was the fact that every band has to read this thing. And so if there's a statement in there somewhere about this is the kind of space we want to create, then there's a higher chance that the band's actually going to see it. And if they feel some type of way, that will be a better way for them to contact us, all that kind of stuff. So that's been really exciting, and we super wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't have a musician on our team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the venues have responded pretty well to that. Anytime we talk to them about wanting to do that, they're all excited about the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of hoops. Hoops? Is that the word? Is that what I want to say?
Yeah.
Sure. There's all legal documents, so there's ways that things have to be phrased. But they've been pretty excited about having the opportunity.
Do you think that, I know it's been a couple years now, but do you think that it's getting generally easier to get partnerships? Are people really responding much better? I know even at Riot Fest this year, I got a notification the first day, for the Riot Fest app that was hey, make sure to check out our friends at Our Music My Body at their booth. And it's for a festival to sort of shout that out to everybody at that point, I'm well, it must be they're super legit. Everybody's yeah, we know them, we want to work with them. I can imagine that, but maybe I'm seeing it from the other side. Knowing
I didn't realize that Riot Fest did that on their app that day.
Yeah, it's a push notification, and they'll just send out whatever throughout the day.
You knew that?
Yeah, well, because people came up and told us.
Oh, nobody told me that when I was there. Riot's been great. They are, like, very excited about having us there. I think it is getting a lot easier. We've had other festivals, like, reach out to us, like Sad Summerfest, which was, like, a touring festival this summer.
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's where we intersected.
Yeah. They reached out to us specifically, like, before the tour even started because they had some issues with some bands that were supposed to be on their tour. And they found us and were like, what should we do? And the people in charge were like, we really want to, like, respond to this in the best way that we can. Like, what support can you give us? So they ended up having us, like, posters that we created and, like, our policy for their entire tour, and then had us present at the Chicago show, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the biggest difference, like, over time is just that more, like, festivals and, like, independent venues and bands even are just, like, finding out that we exist. And one thing that I've also seen that makes me super excited is that there are folks in other states who are reaching out to us who are like, I'm trying to, you know, have some type of similar initiative where I live, and I Googled it to see if anyone else is doing it, and you were the only ones who came up. So, like, what advice do you have to give? Which, like, makes me so happy because, like, I think I probably, this is a really stale joke, I make it all the time, and I'm pretty sure I said it last time, but, like, my whole, like, MO is to, like, work myself out of a job. Like, I want to, like, spread this message as far and wide as I can so that, like, other people pick up on it and we can eventually, like, not have to exist. You know what I mean? Like, we want to be able to, like, make other folks feel like they have the, like, power to do the same thing.
Have you guys ever considered possibly doing, like, kind of like volunteers out of state? I know when I interned for Hope for the Day, that's what we had there, is that we had kind of like a resource to certain people. So it was like, say that there was like a show going on and they wanted them there, but obviously not everyone could pick up from Chicago and go to like Kansas or something. Yeah. They had like resource people and then they would just send them the resources. Would you guys ever try to consider maybe doing that eventually?
Well, we are launching our website on November 20th, same day as just plug there. And one of the things that's going to be on there, because right now we just get like a lot of emails from different people from all over, and I think we respond to most of them, but we only have so much like ability to like really send them all of the information that they need. So one of the things on the website is going to be, if you are somebody who's like out of state and you want more information, like being able to like download a package with like, what do we call it, our deck or whatever, which we're working on updating as well. Having out-of-state volunteers someday would be super cool and exciting. It's just having, the time, I guess.
Well, and, like, figuring out sort of, like, how do we want to make sure that we can guarantee continuity, I guess.
Right,
like,
and that they're saying, like, the messages like, our name is being put on, like, the proper messaging in another state.
Our biggest, like, advice or sort of, like, what I tell everybody when they reach out about this stuff is, like, before you do anything further, find your local anti-violence agency or rape crisis agency or domestic violence agency and, like, have a conversation with their outreach team or prevention team, because most of them have one, and probably their jobs look pretty similar to Elle's and mine. And so they'll be able to talk to you about sort of like, you know, this is how we explain this. This is how we spread this message. Here are the resources available, blah, 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 blah. Because it's like a lot to try to do all by yourself, and you don't have to. And also too, like, thinking of like, say someone is like, we're going to make an Our Music My Body chapter in like Pittsburgh, and then they go to all these shows and they table and they hand out resources and it's really groovy, and then all these people in Pittsburgh start like blowing up the phone of this agency that they just like gave out numbers to. That might be overwhelming. Yeah. So like thinking of like, when you're giving people resources, expect them to use them. So like, be ready on the other end, you know.
Make sure they know.
Yeah, make sure they know. Make sure that they're like on, you know, the same wavelength that you are. And like, maybe they'll want to help. Maybe they'll want to like give you volunteers. Like, you know, you don't have to do it by yourself.
Yeah. Would you guys ever consider if Sad Summerfest was like, oh, we want you on the entire tour? Like, would you guys ever go out on a tour? Or has anybody ever asked you that?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we've gone to out-of-state festivals before, so we've worked like festivals in California and festivals. I think that our bosses would want us to be paid enough to do that. I would go on tour with Sad Summerfest if they were like, yeah, we'll give you this amount of money and come do this for starting the summer. I don't have school. Yeah. There you go. I would go. Sad Summerfest if you're listening.
They're not. We try to get them to listen.
Our music, our body. My body over here. Let's
you want to bring us on tour with you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, not to get super woo-woo, but, like, I am a Cancer moon, so I'm kind of a homebody. So
I also am a Cancer moon, but I love to travel, so I will go all over the country doing this.
You know, birth charts, I had one of my friends do mine, and then she sent it to me, and I had no idea what it meant. I just looked at it, I'm like, can you tell me what this is? She's like, that's just so much. And I'm like,
I'm so bad at it.
I don't, listen, that's what my therapist says too, but listen.
That sounds like she didn't know what it meant.
My stories, but whenever people are like, well, this is this, and I'm like, I don't know, just tell me what that means. What is going to happen to me today?
Is Twitter going to tell me what's going to happen today on Astro Poets? All right, we're fine.
Yeah, Black Lives Matters is doing like a trivia night that's all astrology. I know, and I love trivia, but I would fail.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea about it. I have no idea.
Would you know stuff? Should we make a team?
I feel like I only know stuff about signs that are like, you know, ones that I have or like people close to me. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost like, I can get around Chicago in like the 3 neighborhoods that I'm in most of the time.
That's fair. That's so fair.
I'm not even that, like, I know I'm a Cancer. I think I'm a Cancer, like all of them, which is like wild.
That it would be wild.
My friend read my chart once and was like, whoa, you're real emotional. And I was like, yeah, sure.
You're just like made of tears.
Wow.
That's such a vibe.
I don't cry very often, so maybe she was wrong.
One time, a coworker, I was like, oh, you're a Cancer? Like, da-da-da. What did I even say? He was like, oh, well, what is that supposed to mean? And I was like, they tend to feel a lot of feelings about a lot of things. That was like this perfect moment of like proving it right.
Exactly what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Brian, what's your zodiac sign?
Aquarius. Which I've been told makes a lot of sense.
Of Aquariuses.
That's like February, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my best friends.
Yeah.
I know too many Aquariuses.
Well, there
You're
go.
one of the nice ones, though.
Like, thanks.
Every Aquarius I know is so sweet.
It's like, I've been told, like, you are the type of person to start something and then, like, get really interested in, like, other things. So, like, I'm not good at finishing things, and I'm like...
Is that true?
I don't know. I look back at my life and I go, oh, shit.
Existential
but like, I've also
crisis.
known it about myself. Is like I like trying new things. I like having new experiences. I like traveling. I like all those kind of things. Where it's like that's just part of kind of what that is. Is like you want new experiences more than you want to continue to have the same experiences over and over again. So I see that, but a lot of the stuff I'm like, you know, I don't know if I really believe any of this. I'm like,
but also the thing with astrology is I feel like you can make it any, but like that's
100%.
You can interpret it however.
That's me too.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then I'm like, but no, I'm not an Aquarius.
Yeah.
So I think anytime I read like the horoscopes, I'm like, oh, for sure.
it's like vague and specific at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I do this because
They
you're
do a really
a
good
person, human being.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, human beings do the similar things because of how they're
we
the
act?
same species.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. That's odd.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Interesting that our culture tends to have a lot of people doing the same things in it. Interesting ideas
Wild.
out there with the moons and shit.
I always check my Sunday horoscope because I'm a Sagittarius, and they're like, well, it's been a rough year. No shit, thank you.
Every week they tell you it's been a rough year.
It's like, it's gonna get better, it's okay. And I'm like, but when? You've been telling me this for 6 months.
Why is your horoscope just yelling all-time low lyrics at you?
I mean, I do that myself, so I don't know why I have a random Twitter account doing it to me.
You're
I
really
just want
being
things
bombarded.
to be okay. It's like, you should do that thing that you didn't want to do. And I was like,
They always say that. It's always like, make yourself do
anything.
it. And you're like, what?
well, and I was like, oh, that totally applies to me. And then I did the thing I didn't want to do, and guess what? It didn't end up well.
Listen,
And then the next
then it's
week
like,
it
it's
was
okay.
Like, it's okay to take chances.
It's
Good job putting
you
yourself out
you
there.
feel better about it. Do I?
yeah, it's like they say something one week and they're like, we got to follow up with those people. Like, there's a lot of people that just lost their job. There's a lot of people who like cut all their hair off. Like there's a bunch of people that like are going through it now.
Like just thinking like the worst case scenario. Somebody's like, what if I just straight up leave my family or some crazy
Yeah.
shit like that? Like they're like, That's what my horoscope said. I'm like a Sagittarius moon.
Oh my
whatever
God.
the fuck that means. I don't know.
I've had friends who have had very shitty things happen to them in like situations, and then they're always like, well, Mercury's in retrograde. And I'm like, this is not validating what's happening right now. I'm like, your partner just sucks. Like, this is,
Like, leave them.
this is not because the Mercury is going in a different direction.
You know all these memes that says like, oh, my boyfriend, leave him. That's just what it is. That's just what it is across the board. It's not your
We're not
horoscope.
going to make up excuses.
I was like the one that's like, what planet am I supposed to blame for what's going on with me right now?
Like somebody told me like Mercury's in retrograde right now till like next week or I don't know. I have no idea when.
It was just recently.
And then I was like, oh, so what does that mean? My life's in chaos? It's always in chaos.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, the funny
Things are
thing
the
about
same.
it is that Mercury is in retrograde, I think, 4 times a year for 3 weeks each.
Yeah,
so when you
it's
think
all
about
the
it,
time.
it's like so much of the year.
Have you seen all the memes that were like, let's take Mercury out of the microwave?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I interrupted you, but those are my favorite memes last week.
I know. But then there's also like, well, Mercury's about to be, or it just was.
Yeah,
so really,
it's
when
like-
you think of it, it's like the whole year.
Yeah.
You know what? It's
Mercury's
a dumpster
always
fire.
doing
It's fine.
something. It's a dumpster fire.
The world is garbage.
Ending.
Astrology is not a dumpster fire. The world is a dumpster fire.
My zodiac sign is dumpster fire.
And here's the
We
thing.
use it to feel better.
And you don't need it to guide you because according to one of my friends at work, we're all going to die in 10 years anyway. So
Yeah.
fucking YOLO.
I mean, the climate wars, so it's
Yeah.
fine, guys.
Yeah, Jane Fonda says we got 11 years, and I believe
Yeah.
anything she says.
Yeah.
So
Didn't she just get arrested for it?
yeah.
she got
Her and Ted
arrested so
Danson
many
went to
Yeah,
jail.
we-
Yeah, her and Ted Danson.
we
Ted
believe in
Danson
both
the
of them.
microphones was pretty. Our micro.
I
Handcuffs.
was like,
what are these
The
things?
zip ties.
What are they?
Oh, yeah, the fake zip ties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looked so happy.
He did.
I was like, okay, Ted Danson.
It's like, yeah,
He's like the
activism.
most smug, like, old white guy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah. Take a seat, friend.
But it's also like the rich white
Friend.
people can't afford to get arrested for climate change. Like Jane
Yeah.
Fonda and Ted Danson, like,
Yeah.
I mean, Jane Fonda's getting arrested. Is like, bet I'll get arrested every week.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm
it's
back
like,
again.
I'll get out now.
I know.
I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think we got to really properly introduce you fully, so
Okay.
we could jump back into that.
Yeah. What do we? How much?
You should talk about, like, well, I know, don't include this part. I know that you were, like, obligated to pick up this role as part of your job.
Yeah.
But there was more. But you off the record. But I feel like you also wanted to.
Yeah, I wanted
So
to.
you talk about, like, why you give a shit.
Sure. Are you not going to include all the things she just said? Because you could put that in. We could just keep going rolling with.
I mean, let's just
It
roll with
didn't
it.
really fall on me. It wasn't obligated. It was just like I started my job at Between Friends, and then very quickly the other person who used to run Our Music, My Body was like transitioning out of Between Friends, and then it's just there was a lot of confusion in my agency on whether it was going to come to me or whether we were going to like spread it through the agency, and then it was on me, which was great, and I was excited for it. There was a couple months where me and Maggie were unsure on who was doing what, and I really wanted it to be me, so I pushed for that, and then my agency gave it to me, and so here I am. I was really excited about Our Music, My Body when I first started my job at Between Friends, because doing prevention work with young people is super dope, and I love it. But then being able to, like, mesh my love for live music and going to shows and festivals with talking about the stuff that I get to talk to young people about all the time was, like, the dream. It's sort of, like, turned into my dream job without me wanting it. Not wanting, I wanted it to, but without me thinking that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I thought I was just going to be, like, a prevention educator with young people. My plan was just to keep the job for, like, a year and then, like, figure out what I was going to do next. But then it all sort of, like, molded into Our Music, My Body becoming a bigger part of what my job title is, and I'll probably stick around for a little bit. No,
Love that.
I might stay for a little longer. Take a load off. But yeah, I moved to Chicago for this job at Between Friends, so
Oh, wow.
I've been in Chicago for a year and like a month now.
Ooh.
13 months.
Is it your anniversary? When?
September 29th was my first day at Between
Ooh.
Friends.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so...
We should have had a party.
Well, we just had a party at my house. I just had a housewarming. I just moved. Yeah, so I've been here for 13 months now. I moved here without never having been to Chicago before. I got offered this job on a Tuesday. I also got offered a job in Brooklyn on Tuesday, and I had 24 hours to drink a lot of wine and do pros and cons lists with my mom and decide which city I was going to move to. And I was
That's the best way.
I can't afford Brooklyn. I guess I'll move to Chicago. And then they were like, can you start on Monday? And this was like Wednesday. And I was like, yeah.
Oh, Lord.
For sure. And so I like got in my car and like drove to Chicago. And I was like, ended up finding a realtor that did like a free service to help you find an apartment.
Oh, that's great.
And then I was like, this is how much I can afford. And this is where my office is. And so knowing nothing about Chicago, they put me in a studio in Edgewater, which was fine. I lived there for a year. Now I live in Humboldt. I like it a lot more. It's more central.
Yeah.
But when I was moving to Chicago, I was on the phone with my best friend as I was like driving on Lakeshore Drive. This is embarrassing. I shouldn't tell this story.
No, you should.
I don't even know the story. I'm like,
This is just like a fact you should have known growing up in America. But like I grew up in Savannah, Georgia. I guess I spent some time in the Midwest. My mom's from Indiana. But I was driving in and I was like, what is this body of water? And my friend was like, you know Chicago's on a lake, right? And I was like, I had no idea.
Oh my God.
That was embarrassing.
Have you been to the beach? Lake Michigan Beach?
Since I've moved here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I lived in Edgewater, so I lived like
I was
a
about
block
to say, you
from
had the Hollywood Beach.
It's on the edge of the water.
I was by the water all the time. I haven't been to the beach since I moved. It's far now.
Well,
yeah.
To Humboldt.
Since I moved to Humboldt.
Yeah. Okay.
But I used to like run along the lakefront when I lived in Edgewater.
Oh, fancy.
Like the 3 times I went on a run in the year.
The dater, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And then you're like, Ashley, never fucking again.
Yeah, you guys mentioned that you are going to be at some shows with a booth at some shows coming up. So what are some of those that you're going to be at?
So we have a long-standing partnership with Subterranean and Beat Kitchen and Shuba's in Lincoln Hall. So those are like our main partnerships where I like am in talks with them every few weeks about what shows we can be at. So for like every month, we put out feelers to our volunteers, tell them to look at all the shows that are going to be at those venues and let us know which ones like they would maybe want to be at. And then I just sort of choose a few at random with help from the guys at the venues. And then I put them on the calendar and then we hope that volunteers sign up for all of them. But trying to think what shows we're at this week. We were supposed to be at Allie Barter on Wednesday, but her tour got pushed till December. So that's not happening anymore. We're going to be at Harley Poe at Beat Kitchen this weekend. Some folk punk.
College.
I went and saw Beans on Toast last week, and I worked the table, but Beans on Toast is like one of my favorite folk punk artists.
Really?
And he's like pretty big in the UK, so I expected like there was like 23 people in the room, maybe.
Wow.
And I was like, And then he came up to me at the table and was like talking, and then he was like, also, I felt like a weirdo because I like know a lot of stuff about him because he's one of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's fine.
He
It's
was like,
normal.
oh, my friend Frank Turner runs Stay for Gigs for Women in the UK, which is like the equivalent of like Our Music, My Body in the UK. And I was like, oh yeah, I know. And then I was like, man, this is weird that I know that you're friends with him. And then the back of my phone case is the lead singer of Frightened Rabbit. And he like pointed it out and was like, oh, I toured with them at one point. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, I came to this show because I genuinely like you. There were like a lot of people there who I don't think knew who he was. They were just like at sub tea for the evening. And I was like, you are one of my favorite artists. This is weird. Also, did I tell you what happened at that show?
No.
It was wild.
Oh.
Then I'll tell you what other shows we're going to work at. But he was like, so he plays a lot of like politically charged music. And I'm not even really sure what song he was playing when this all happened. It all happened super quickly. Also, it was a very white room. A lot of white people in there, which is fine. I was probably the darkest person in the room. I'm like Iranian for anyone who can't see me. And so he's like playing one of his really political songs. And there was this 2 guys there who were both very intoxicated. And one of them just like, he like plays just his guitar, and he had like gotten off stage and was like standing in the crowd because there were so few people there, and he just
because folk punk.
And because folk punk.
Yeah.
It's just,
like,
how it works.
These 2 like dudes who were pretty intoxicated did know all of his music. They were like there to see him, and they were singing along. And I think one of the songs he was singing about was like about Brexit and about how like people in the UK are racist.
Yeah.
And then this dude just like yells that I can say the N-word because my friend said I could say the N-word, and he just like, but he said it, and it was just like total silence, and everyone was like, what what just happened? And then everyone in the room was like, dude, no. And his friend is like holding his face and he's like, no. But then he just continues to yell that he's allowed to say it because his friend who he works with told him that he was allowed to say it. And the whole bar is like, what is going on? And then the guy from Beans on Toast is like, no, let's talk. Everybody's like, fucking kick him out, get him out. And the bartender comes up and is like, yeah, I'm just gonna kick him out. And I was like, yeah, you should kick him out. Like, 100%. He needs to go. And then everybody in the room, and then Beans on Toast guy's like, hold on, let's try and have a conversation. What are you saying? Are you just saying you're a racist? And he like, he's like from the UK, so like the word has a little bit of a different connotation, and I don't think he fully understood like the extent of everybody else being like, what the fuck? And finally the guy was like, just kept yelling about how he's allowed to say it. And it like wasn't making any fucking sense with what was going on in the room. And finally the bartender was like, it's over. And I was like, yeah, you need to kick him out. And
was the whole time, was he saying the full ending?
No, he didn't. Okay. So he said it twice very loudly. And then he just kept saying, my friend said I could say it.
Okay.
My friend kept saying I could say it. And we were like, but you can't.
There's literally no reason why you should.
It was so,
I honestly, so many questions.
So did I. And so did we all.
Was it like in the like song? Like was he singing? Was it in
No,
the
that guy did not sing it at all. No, he didn't say it. I think he was talking, the song that he was singing when it happened was about like the immigration issues that are happening in the UK and how racist everybody there is. So I don't know why he thought that he needed to say it and where it came from, because Beans on Toast 100% didn't. Like, it's not one of his lyrics.
Wow. I want to talk to this man, but I also don't.
It was wild. And his friend, to be fair, everyone in the room was like, absolutely fucking not. You need to leave. That was not cool. Yeah. And his friend was even like, dude, what the fuck? No. Yeah. And then when they got kicked out, his friend was like, yeah.
Like, yeah, we deserve this because you're
But then the bartender came back in and was like, he got very aggro out there and was like real mad about the fact that he was getting kicked out. And I was like, this is like some fragile white male shit right now. Like, how do you not understand what you did was wrong?
Oh my God. So here's why you should be a volunteer for our music podcast.
Yeah. You see wild things.
Wild stories.
You never know what's gonna happen.
But then there was like this awkward, like, I felt like a lot of people came up and were like specifically apologizing to me in the room, and I was like, that's fine, thank you.
For a second, you're like, you don't need to. Actually, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll take
an apology, but like, okay. Sure. It was interesting. Interesting situation.
Do you feel like they were apologizing to you because you were
the only brown person in the room? 100%. That's why they were doing it.
They're only probably sitting around. They're like, "Wow, we're really white here," and she isn't.
They needed somewhere to put their white guilt.
Yeah. And then it was all coming on to me, and I was like, I was just as uncomfortable.
They're holding it. They're like, it's so heavy.
It's all happening.
This guilt is so heavy. Where do I put it?
Yeah, it was wild.
They're like, you can help us.
Yeah, you can take it off of
You
me.
can tell us that we're not that bad. Yeah. We're not that racist.
We thanked the bartender as we were leaving. I was like, thank you for kicking him out. Yeah. The bartender, I think, had missed like the first half. He was like outside smoking a cigarette. Then I watched him walk in and be like, what the fuck is going on?
He's literally like, I left it for 5 minutes. Yeah. And this happens.
Yeah. I can only imagine, as a former like career bartender, I feel like I've been in situations not that bad, but where you walk away for a minute and you come back and you're like, what? It is absolute chaos. And I don't know
going on.
What I need to do right now.
Just kick everybody out.
just shut it down.
We're
done.
Everyone,
go home.
Start over.
Go. I don't understand.
Close the bar. We're starting over. New name.
Done for the night.
Yeah. So yeah, we were at Sub T last week.
In
summation, we worked some shows there. Twin Peaks reached out to us specifically right around the time of Riot Fest and wanted us to be at their show on November 29th at the Riv.
It got moved to the Rib, I think. Yeah, I think it was at Thalia, but it got moved to the Rib.
It's at the Riv. So we'll be there November 29th. You should stop by and say hello. Mm-hmm. And then our new website is launching next November 20th, which another shout out. But we're going to have a calendar on there that you can go on and look at all of the shows that we'll be at throughout the month. So if you want to see what events you can find us at, you can find it on our website. Yeah.
What is the website? By the time this will come out, I mean, it'll be a couple days before, but what is the website?
Build the anticipation. It's just going to be ourmusicmybody.org.
Oh, hell yeah.
Super easy. And it'll also be linked on the Resilience and Between Friends website. So if you forget.
Yeah. Or if you go to our Instagram, it'll be on our link tree.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll have a calendar. It'll have a direct link to volunteer applications. It'll have a space for if you're a festival or if you're a venue and you want to work with us, like fill out this form that'll like get shot out straight to us. And all kinds of other really good stuff that we feel like where we found people want access to that is kind of hard to find right now. So, and another thing that you remind me, another thing in terms of like if your band is interested, but you're like, I don't know if we can handle being a music ambassador because maybe we don't live in Chicago or whatever. Like we always get really excited when bands ask us to be at their shows. So you mentioning Twin Peaks made me think of this. So if you are in a band and you're down with this stuff, a really easy way to show your support is to just like holler at us, email me or Elle and tell us where you're going to be and we'll try to get there.
For your Chicago shows, for sure. It's super easy. Venues are very... I haven't in my year encountered a venue that says no to us.
Yeah.
Being if the band has requested us.
Yeah.
So even if it's not one of our regular partner venues, they're usually pretty excited to have us there.
So you just like reach out to the venue and say, we want to have a booth. The band requested us and they
the
let
band
you.
Actually usually, so the band will reach out to us and be like, so what do you need from us? And I will be like, we just need a table and a chair and a corner. Not in a corner, somewhere where everyone can see us.
Yeah.
And they reach out, their management usually just reaches out. To
okay.
They CC us all onto one big email.
So like if a band, let's say like there were some local bands that were putting together a show, they would just like work with whoever was booking it or whoever was working with the venue and just like get you guys a table there if they
just like
wanted
ask
you to
the
come
venue
out.
if that's cool. And if it's easier for the band just to like send my info to the venue or vice versa, that works too. Yeah. But yeah.
So it's actually really simple to get you guys at a show.
Yeah.
So bands, don't be like, I don't know what to do. Just do it.
Literally
It's
reach out
easy.
and sending an email.
Yeah.
Send me an email and I will do the rest.
Yeah.
With
and
you maybe having to do a few things.
Or even bands have reached out to us via like our Instagram DMs. Like
Slide into our DMs real quick.
Find us. We will respond. Basically. Probably like email would be faster, certainly, but we'll respond.
Or Instagram DMs. I'm pretty good about the Instagram, to be fair. Yeah, it's linked on my phone, so I get notifications. I might be better on that than my emails.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the same.
Really?
It's too much spam in my email. It's like, nah.
I just have so much so much about my job that gets emailed to me.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I know it's been pretty much almost a year since we've had you guys on. Your very first interview, our third episode, which I think is cool. And it's really good to have you guys back. I think we could have a little bit more of a discussion about kind of, I know we were talking earlier about like the overall arching topic of coercion, especially in the last like year, that there's been a lot of other instances that come out where that has involved a lot of bands or bands coming back after trying to recover, like figure out how to go forward with coercion. And I know that, that's kind of a touchy subject for some people because it could be easily miscommunicated for some people and they don't understand. So how exactly could you, I guess, define it and then kind of apply it to other things like cross application?
Just read a whole book last night about coercion culture and how like we live in this like society that is like built around, a lot of times it's called rape culture, but her argument was that calling it coercion culture makes it a little less intimidating to people to hear the word, because a lot of the times if you throw rape culture out there, people are like, well, are you just assuming that like we're okay with rape? Because obviously we're not okay with rape, but
well, and people want to make the argument that like rape only looks one type of way,
right?
And like so rape culture implies like one type of thing,
just like
yeah
one type of rape, whereas coercion culture is this idea that like, when you're little and a boy's mean to you and somebody's like, well, that just means he likes you, and like this whole idea that we're going to continue like people treating you badly or trying to talk you into things that you don't want to do and make you seem like the bitch in the situation if you say no because, like, well, they did all these nice things for you, or they bought you this, or they let you come into their show for free, or they brought you backstage, and, like, you now owe them something because of, like, what they gave to you. Was the question, like, how we, like, move past that, like, in our culture? Because I think
mean,
that...
It could be. We could go either way.
Yeah.
So whatever your thoughts are on it.
I think that, like, this whole idea of consent culture, which is, like, what we push for and, like, pushing... to make it normal to, like, talk about what it is that you want in a situation and, like, what it is you're comfortable with. I think a lot of times young people aren't being taught that, and so then adults don't know how to do that either, which is why our whole extent of our job is, like, talking to young people about being able to, like, stand up for yourself, like, say no, and understand that you're allowed to say no, even if someone brought you backstage at their really cool show and, like, let you hang out in the green room doesn't mean that you owe them shit. Like, that was their choice. They did it. Yeah, and then just, like, not letting shitty people get away with that behavior, which I think is, like, we're getting a little better as a culture to call out people and, like, hold people accountable, but at the same time, like, sometimes bands are still allowed to, like, go back on tour after we know they did, like, really terrible, shitty things.
Yeah.
What was the book?
Oh, well, it's, like, a chapter of the book. I'm reading Sex Plus by Lacey Green. I, like, today I spent all day writing a lesson plan on coercion and consent for high school students. So I was just reading that chapter to help me.
Juicy.
Yeah. It's really fun. Lots of really fun scenarios for
If you're not a high school or a middle school student, you're getting some hot tips.
Lakeview High School, if you guys are listening, I just did your whole thing. So hopefully you don't hate it. If you hate them all, it's fine.
I remember last time when you were on, we also talked a lot about cancel culture and the call out culture. And, like, I mean, obviously in a year it has changed a lot. We kind of talked a lot about Me Too because it was kind of like in its first beginnings last time. And now I think we still are talking about Me Too, but it's definitely kind of moved away from, like, that as the movement and more into just, you know, post Me Too. And now where we're at in the culture of, like, everybody's sort of calling everybody out on Twitter and trying to get, like, all this attention for these bad things people have done. And obviously, like, that's probably where we should go. Like, people should be held accountable and people should be, you know, you should be like, hey, yeah, this person did this bad thing. And there is no, like, legal recourse. There probably won't be because of how the law treats people when they commit crimes. Brett Kavanaugh. But, yeah, there's just been so much that's happened, and I think I don't know, we could kind of update it a little bit. I also was watching something on YouTube the other day that was like, yeah, we have, like, cancel culture, and let's talk about everyone who's been canceled. Bill Cosby's selling out tours. Louis C.K. is showing up and getting standing ovations at his shows. I saw a video of Harvey Weinstein at a comedy club.
Yeah, and that girl got in trouble because she called him out and people were booing her. And
I'm
I was like, what? Or why are we not booing Harvey Weinstein?
Yeah. So how is it, like, that we went on the internet and everybody agreed, like, this is a bad thing, this is a bad person, what they've done is bad, we should not support them, and yet somehow everyone is doing just fine. And I know it's because they're white men, but I want to also argue about it as, like, a bigger part of the culture.
Wait, did you just say Bill Cosby is selling out shows?
Sorry, yeah.
Is he? I thought he was still. Is he not in jail still?
That might have been, and that might have been beforehand.
I don't know. I was just checking.
Bill Cosby is in jail for, I'm pretty sure, like, most of his.
I know it was before. It was like random examples.
Before
even
he got
when people
in
knew
prison, he was still doing really, really well.
Yeah. So just sort of, like, random examples of, like, you know, men that are doing bad things that are being held accountable, who are, I mean, Bill Cosby being the only person who actually went to, well, Harvey Weinstein's going to trial, I believe.
Yeah, but he was just at a comedy club. Like,
he's
still there. And you also have to remember, Bill Cosby was the only, well, aside from Aziz Ansari, but Bill Cosby's the only, like, person of color. And he was immediately, he was in prison, but then we had Harvey Weinstein, who's a rich white dude.
And Brett Kavanaugh, and the president, honestly.
And the president.
And probably most of his cabinet.
He's orange, but it doesn't excuse it.
Yeah.
He is technically a person of color. It's just not a color that a person should be.
I've been hearing some stuff lately about, like, basically we have this whole, like, accountability thing wrong in terms of, like, thinking of it as here is a checklist, and once you can check all these boxes, you have, you know, processed, or you have been held accountable. I'm doing a lot of air quotes. You have been held accountable, and, like, you know, you're good. And, like, the problem with that is that, like, accountability is an ongoing thing. Like, you're constantly processing and growing and learning and trying to do better. And so, like, if you even go into it with this notion that, like, you can graduate from the harm that you did, like, you're already doing it wrong. Like, you're already messing it up. But, like, with that, too, like, it, you know, thinking of, like, well, what's next? Like, what's going to happen? Because we've seen, as you said, like, we saw the first wave, which was all these people getting called out or getting, you know, accused, or their stories being shared, right? That was kind of, that's happening or has happened. And now we're in the second wave of, like, okay, well, what do we do? Like, what do we do with this information? Because, you know, as you mentioned, some people, nothing happens. And they just keep getting to walk around in the world. Like, you know, nothing ever happened. And then other folks are being immediately incarcerated, which is also trash. Like, every avenue is bad. So, like, I think I'm really excited to see, like, how folks who are, like, hardcore in social justice spaces, like, process this and make sense of it. I don't want to speak for you, but I don't feel like I'm, like, smart enough to, like, figure out, like, what, like, the solution. But, like, I feel like you know, what we've said before and what we'll always say is, like, ultimately whatever the person who experienced the harm wants is, like, the thing to do, certainly. But then even if you can accomplish that, like, I still struggle with the idea that person can then just be handed, like, all their power and like their platform back. Like, that feels grimy to me, especially knowing that sexual violence in particular is, like, rooted in power and control and, like, the desire to have power. So it's like you do all these things and then you just get to, like, go back to having this position where you could arguably, like, do all that grimy shit again. So I don't know. I
think that's, like, where, like, my disconnect from where, like, people go on Twitter and just, like, essentially to me talk shit about people that do bad things is, like, yeah, of course they did bad things, but, like, there's no legal recourse, so there's no way to, like, have quote unquote justice on that person to prevent them from being able to commit that crime again. Putting them in jail, like, I agree with you, is, like, you're not putting them in jail for, like, a purpose. Like, it's not rehabilitation. It's not getting them to, like, change their behavior. You're just sort of saying, we're not going to allow you to have that because a bunch of people on Twitter are telling you not to. But it's not like there's no real tangible thing you can do to somebody. And I think that, like, for a lot of people that are witnessing it, they're like, I can't do anything, so I'm going to talk mad shit in 140 characters and hope that makes me feel better. And I don't think... I mean, I don't do that. I don't go on Twitter and complain about anything aside from maybe, like,
you're hardly on Twitter unless I send you something.
I know. Yeah. Although I do argue about television shows sometimes. But aside from that, like, and some terrible bands. If the band was a really bad record, I'll complain about that.
When Ronnie Radke came out, you were like, you were on it.
I will go in on Ronnie Radke because I think he is trash. He has not been...
And that's not even a thought. That's, like, proof.
That's just actual...
It's just actuality. It's real life.
You could throw something away and go, bye, Ronnie. So you could just call your trash Ronnie now.
See if maybe Ronnie Radke would start beef with us, just so we can just be like, but you're trash.
Shout out to Ronnie Radke. Go fuck yourself. Hope he listens. He's also the kind of guy who would respond to me on Twitter and go, "No, fuck you, man."
Yeah.
And be like,
and then be like, "He's not on here," and I'd respond, and he'd be like, "Well, I can't say that to a girl."
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Say it."
No, he'll say it to a girl.
Yeah, then I'll just be like, "Yo,
hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up? Are you gonna throw a mic stand at me? What?"
Yeah.
But also proving your point.
Yeah, also proving the point. No, dude would legitimately, like, do all the things. Yeah, he would 100%. So, like, I don't know the mindset of somebody who would go on Twitter and actively, like, try to argue with somebody or try to get, as I can only assume, like, some amount of, like, their own like catharsis out of that, like, knowing that something has happened and that it is so despicable, and you as a person learning it years down the line or completely outside of your realm of, like, people you know, and yet you have no way out of that emotionally, especially if it's like a hero of yours, if it's somebody in a band you listen to, if it's all that, it's like, I don't know how to deal with that. So I'm going to go on Twitter and argue with that person or try to call that person out. And it's like mob justice rather than like real, like something that changes. And I think it's also like on the other end, making somebody who has done these things think it's just people mad at me on the internet. I can get over that. It's like, no, you've done a real bad thing and you will not come to terms with that because you're seeing that the only justice you're going to get is a bunch of people bitching on the internet, which isn't really anything.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that the other thing about it, I feel like there's a little bit like you're saying where you're kind of like, this is my outlet to process these feelings I'm having about like being really disappointed, you know, like maybe this is an artist I really love, or like they wrote songs that, you know, live in important parts of my memories. And so I feel shitty about this and I want everyone to know how shitty I feel. Like certainly like that's part of it. But I think another really big part of it is folks wanting to separate them or like distance themselves from the bad behavior also. Like, and I feel like we might see this more just because like the notion of like talking about sexual violence is like kind of like Elle said, like you say rape and everybody's like, but like, so I feel like it comes up more when we're talking about like racial justice stuff where people want to be so badly want to be like, well, I'm white, but I'm not like the bad white people, you know? So like, I'm gonna like go hard on those bad white people, quote unquote, because then that shows that I'm like far from that.
Right. It's like I'm the real ally here and you aren't.
So is it like what Barack Obama said where it's woke culture?
Oh yeah, that was also a spicy take on Obama's part, big time. I was really surprised.
Somebody made the comment like him and Michelle are doing that now because they don't want to be caught up in anything like people looking back at like his presidency and like the things that he
now
did.
With like the new presidency coming up, it's like, oh yeah, but Obama did XYZ. Yeah. You know, everything
so
like
it's like they're trying to separate themselves from that ahead of time, and I'm like, you did bad stuff, Obama. Like, you did like, bad stuff.
You're president. It's honestly, it comes with it. It sounds shitty, but
we need
that's
checks
just how
on a lot of it. But you know, at least we have legal recourse for a president doing bad things. Hopefully, that all works out for us in the next year. But we're not getting into our political episode.
We're not going to get into it.
But do you think that it comes from woke culture?
I guess. Can you like define woke culture?
I think it's kind of exactly. I think it's kind of exactly how you said it. As like, especially with like white younger people, is like, I don't want to be seen that way, but I also don't think it's anybody doing the real work to learn about it. It's people who just are sort of like, no, I'm one of the good ones, rather than being like, yeah, I've educated myself and I'm doing these things and I'm putting my money where my mouth is, so to speak. Like I'm actually doing the thing, not just talking about it, not just going on Twitter and complaining about somebody, not just jumping on with other people.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times, like being able to use the internet to do that kind of stuff, and not that I'm like defending people because I don't really have that strong of an opinion on any of these things. But I think if you just don't know what to do, like you want to help and you want to make a difference, and in your head, like putting something on Twitter is like your little bit of stuff that you can do. Also, the internet exists and there are ways that you can like find to get involved. But for people who are very introverted or who like social interactions like intimidate them, like coming to an I'm Using My Body training might be just like way out of their like comfort zone. I think like having that place to be able to like put your stuff out there is like one positive thing about the internet. But yeah, at the same time, it does create a lot of people just like posting things and like saying what they want to change, but nobody actually putting any kick behind getting anything changed.
Right.
I mean, I think it was really great to start with like social justice. Definitely at the beginning, like it was more grassroots and just to spread information. But now it's, you know, people, you can talk to people and say, hey, did you like read this in like AP News or like, you know, Washington Post? And they're like, no, I just saw it on Twitter. I'm like, well, that's...
Or I saw the headline.
Yeah, that's a big problem. When people don't read the articles, and then when they repost the articles, and then you're like, you didn't even read this.
You didn't read, like, you don't understand what's going on.
This is not right.
Headlines are commercials for the content that's in there.
Literally.
It's not
like
the
when
content.
all the Trump supporters at rallies recently have been wearing Read the Transcripts t-shirts, and it's like, obviously we read the transcripts, that's why he's literally getting impeached. Like did you fucking read the transcript? Probably not, because can you read?
Damn.
You probably had the Fox News, like, this is my first
Spark
book.
Notes.
Yeah, not even Spark Notes. It was like, this is my first book on Fisher Price.
Wild.
We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Oh, you're right.
So
Sorry.
can't have any feelings about it. Technically, on the record.
I'll edit that out. Don't worry.
Off the record.
If I didn't edit it out, sorry. Shit, my editing.
But I think that's the whole thing with woke culture is that, especially when you just have everything coming out at once, it's so much. Mm-hmm. And more people are more prone to be attracted to social justice because it's easy. It's like everyone knows, like, LGBT and race relation issues for the most part as examples. Whereas if you're like, all right, guys, let's talk about what's going on over in like Saudi Arabia, you're like, I don't know what the fuck that means.
Yeah.
And it's easier to just do it because it's a logical, like, well, if I go from A, I can go to D, and there's like easy steps. Mm-hmm. And it's easier for people to digest and understand in that way. And I mean, it's good and bad because you learn a lot more, and people who are also like very educated in certain topics that you maybe didn't learn in school, for example, they can say like, hey, these are like really, remarkable women and POCs in the past that like we don't talk about. Mm-hmm. And that's great that we're able to do it, but it's so hard because not everybody has a high media literacy to understand to a certain point, nor do they probably feel that they need to do anything outside of that box. And it's also, how much does it impact them? That's the other thing. If it is like, again, like the white ally savior complex, it's like, I tweeted about it. That's it.
Mm-hmm. We're done. Got him.
Done.
Got him. I mean, I think something that can maybe hopefully feel a little more uplifting is that this past weekend I was at this big conference called the Young Feminist Conference, and it's like organized by teens, like for teens. Mm-hmm. I'm on I call the grown-up caucus. Like, I am one of the adults who basically just like makes the phone calls to like make sure it can happen. That kind of thing, like super logistical, like everything else the teens are responsible for, which in and of itself is like very exciting. Like 200 kids show up to this thing. Like it's great. But one of the topics they specifically wanted to talk about, like have a panel about with actual journalists, was media literacy and like how do you know when news is fake, quote unquote fake news? Like how do you know like what news sources to trust and things like that? And I felt like I was so excited about that because I totally agree. Like, especially when I was a teenager, I was like, yeah, PETA, environmental rights, like things like that.
Oh,
because
God.
like that was what was accessible to me, and that made sense. I was like, yeah, I'm a vegetarian, like don't test on animals, like got it, like sure, and same with like feminism stuff. I'm like, yeah, like equality, whatever, done, like I'll put it on a t-shirt, I'll wear it. But so it made me feel really excited that they were like pushing beyond that, like a little farther, digging a little deeper in. And so I hope that that's like a general sort of attitude of young folks. Because if so, I think we're going to be just fine.
Yeah. That's really inspiring.
Yeah, that is very inspiring.
Yeah. And they also wanted to talk a little bit too, like kind of like calling back a little bit, like they wanted to do something basically like, okay, like Me Too happened, now what? Like, what do we do with this? Like, now we've all like essentially ripped off this Band-Aid and exposed all this trauma that maybe we weren't even super familiar with us having. What are we going to do with it? Like, how do we make art about it? How do we write about it? How do we like share our stories in a way that feels good? Like, and that I feel like is also kind of the next move in this whole process of like public accountability and like public like processing and healing and stuff, is like more and more artists and just people coming forward with their stories in like cool creative ways. Like, I'm still over here talking about Nanette, the comedy special.
Yeah,
like I'm still blown away by things like that, so I hope to see way more of that as all of this progresses.
To backtrack a little bit, I actually, one of my friends at work, we were having a conversation about a band that had some sexual coercion allegations against them. And one question he actually posed to me, which I thought was kind of interesting, was that how would somebody in a band, like say they're a front person, how do you decipher like having a fan like come up and you being like, oh, this is cool, and then being interested in them like sincerely as like possibly a romantic partner, but then it escalating, and then how do you know where that boundary is? Like, how would you be able to describe it? And I thought that was actually really interesting perception, and if that could even work. Because obviously there are some, you know, people who are in bands who married fans, which, you know, great, that worked for them. But how does that affect those in bands now because of all of this, you know, new, you know, motion of making sure like we're keeping safe spaces, but not taking advantage of the fans, but still also like trying to have their own lives if they feel like that's what they want to go for and do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's as scary as it like that sort of sounds. I think age plays a big part in it. Like if you're an adult male or female, if you're an adult musician and the person that you're interested in is an underage fan, then obviously that's creepy and weird.
But maybe we should like outline like the hard no's and the hard no, they're underage. Hard no, they should come up to you after the show and they're highly intoxicated and cannot move or consent. Maybe they can move, but they're very, very drunk. Yeah.
What are some other hard no's?
I mean, I think it's really like the power.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna like. It's the age is a big part of the power, and I think that like if you're a human and you're interacting with somebody, you can tell if like they're genuinely interested in you because like maybe your music is part of it, but also like they're attracted to you and they think you're interesting and like this is like an adult equal conversation. Yeah. Not like a conversation where this person is just like fawning over you and like thinks you're amazing and just like it's like this weird like a different dynamic of how you guys are feeling about each other based on like the fact that you are a musician versus just like you happen to be in a band that they like, but also they think you're interesting and cool and talk to you on like a similar level.
I think that I'm gonna make kind of like a wild comparison, but it feels like it makes sense.
Go
so, like,
for
come
it.
with me. I heard recently in a training that like the notion of perfection is symptom of white supremacy, and I was like, cool, I'm just gonna keep talking out my ass then. Doing great.
We're really taking your hand on this one. We really want you to lead us.
Let's fucking go. I am down for this.
Now there's so much build up. No, so it makes me think, hearing you talk about it makes me think of like, you know, conversations within the hospitality industry of like people thinking that their barista or bartender or server wants to smooch them just because they're being nice and like not understanding the dynamic of like, no, it's literally my job. Like I have to do this or at the very least, like this is my job persona. Like I don't have to do it, but this is like how I talk to people when I'm working or whatever, you know. It makes me think of like if you're in a band, you have to also kind of like know like people are going to come up to me and want to talk to me and be really interested in me because I write songs that they identify with. Like they don't actually like know me, they just know this like sort of persona of me. And so like you have to sort of understand that disconnect of like you were saying, like, is this person, like, excited to talk to me because they're idolizing me or they're a fan, or are they excited to talk to me because they think that I'm cute and, like, we have similar interests and, you know, all of those
things. I think it can even, not idolizing, because that is a big word, but it can start with them just, like, being very excited about your music that you make, but as the conversation progresses, like, making sure that it but feels equal. And not just, like, they're idolizing you. I have a friend whose sister-in-law-ish, was at a Lord Huron show, and the bass player saw her, and now they're engaged. He, like, saw her from the audience and, like, found her afterwards, and then they, like, talked, and now they're engaged. And, like, a very cute, like...
Now we're all still having that false hope. Like,
I know. When my friend told me that story, I was like... The bass player just looked at her in the crowd and, like, found her afterwards. I was like, that doesn't happen. I was like...
Or you hear that story about really grimy, like, 70s rock musicians
who
do that shit.
That's like Motley Crue.
And then you're like, so it can go either way. It can be really cute, or it can be like,
absolutely not.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it has to do with power.
It does. It, like, at the end of the day, it has to do with power, and it has to do with, like, not... I don't know. Maybe what we're saying too is like if you are a person who holds power, i.e. a musician of some, you know, reputation or whatever, like you have an extra responsibility to like sniff this stuff out. Like you have to be a little more diligent. You have to be a little more like thoughtful. Like when we talk to young people about negotiating consent while they're using drugs or alcohol, it's like we're never saying like you literally cannot. We're saying like you just really have to slow down. You really have to communicate more than you would think. You really have to like be more aware of everything, you know, And so like I think again, like if you are the person who holds power in that situation, like you need to kind of like take the wheel and do better.
Be best.
You gotta be thinking about like whenever I meet like somebody I idolize in a band, you know, and just meeting somebody who I'm like, I like your music and I would like to hang out and talk to you. And it's still like I meet them and I go, and I just have no idea how to talk to or communicate with them.
Never talking unless they like come up to the table with Our Music, My Body. Like one of my favorite bands played at Sub P a couple weeks ago and I went and saw them and they were like hanging out outside afterwards. Motherfolk, who I've like seen 3 times now. And like I talked they have a girl in the band who has like great hair. Last time she played at Shoe was a couple like last year. Afterwards, all I did was like ask her what shampoo she used. And I was like, this is what I fucking talk to musicians I like. Because I'm just gonna ask her what her shampoo is and then walk away. But yeah, we were walking out of Sub T a couple weeks ago. My roommate was like, why don't you go talk to them? And I was like, the fuck am I gonna say?
Yeah, that's fair.
I really like your music. It's great. Bye.
Yeah.
Like
the only thing I could justify is be like, hey, I have a podcast. Can we talk?
I did that.
That is it.
Yeah.
I cannot do anything
I did
else.
I thought about like going and plugging Our Music, My Body.
They're not on.
They've never been on.
Well, guys, I really love working in media and other organizations. So I can just be like, hey, I have this. Can we talk to you?
Yeah.
I have no other way of knowing how to speak to you.
Brought up Our Music, My Body with them, and then I was like, I don't know what to say. I'm gonna go.
I contacted the press person for Enter Shikari when they were coming to town because I wanted to interview them about climate change because that's what their whole like American run was. Like they were going to climate protests and they like, started their show off with a speech that this like 17-year-old girl gave in Austin. And like that's how they were starting their shows after the first day of their show. They're like, oh shit, we recorded this. It's playing at all of them. And they never got back to me. They got back to me like at first and they're like, yeah, I can throw it out to them. Like just give me like a little more info. And then never got back to me. And then I was at a bar like right next door. It was at Lincoln Hall. So I went to the bar like right next door and we're sitting near this table with these 2 people and it's like pretty empty in there. And then all of a sudden the bassist comes in and sits down and I was like, well, I mean, I have to say something. So I waited until like, you know, we were about ready to go. We like closed our tab and I'm like, I'm just going to, you know, say, I was like, hey, my name is Brian. I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. I just wanted to say like, I really am a big fan of your band and thank you for all that you're doing and all the attention that you're bringing to this issue. I want to let you know that I also contact your press person and I was hoping to like interview you guys. And like, if you ever want to do it, like I'd love to have you guys on. We can always do it over the internet or something. He's like, oh yeah, you know, thank you. It was really nice. And like, just had a quick conversation. He's like, yeah, I'll talk to the guys. And I'm like, it's fine. But
Thank you so much.
It's like, yeah, fine. I appreciate it.
I mean, that's why I kind of lead. I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Lizzie. Loved your set. I'm also in a podcast. Can I interview you?
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit more confidently, too, but that's all I know how to do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't.
I hand him my business card. Here you go.
You never know.
Professional.
I do that to ask people out to on dates.
Yep, you got it. We're going to request that you stop doing that.
I never.
You know, last time I did it, we're friends.
Oh.
Well,
It's actually at the last emo karaoke. I had a crush on somebody, and I almost put my number on one of our buttons that we make at our table and gave it to him. But then I chickened out and didn't do it.
Maybe we should make buttons that have like a
Just my name on it, like my phone number.
your face.
If you're into me, come up to the table. We're not giving out numbers.
Oh, a good consensual
Like
button.
a cute consensual pickup line kind of.
That would be
vibe.
cute.
Look at
Does that make
that.
Something, yeah.
Not like I feel like putting like write your number here would be like a little aggressive.
Yeah, very
but rather
aggressive.
like
yeah.
thinking of cute things that
Yeah,
could
that is for
start the
Valentine's Day.
conversation. See?
Yeah, would you guys ever do like
It could work.
like a consent like stoplight party or something like that?
What's a stoplight party?
It's where you wear like so you wear like red, yellow, green. If like
any of this.
depending on like your relationship status, so you wear like red, so you're taken, and you like go there with like let's say like a group of people go, and then like you all hang out as a group, but like you might be wearing red with your partner, and then if somebody is single, they wear green, so everybody knows like who's single and they can go and like talk to other people. So it's kind of like
then what is
Wait,
yellow?
what's yellow?
Like it's complicated.
I don't know.
Is what
I don't know
It's
if
like-
you
it's
want to get
complicated,
into
but-
the it's
I
complicated
went to school
scenario.
in the South, and so the sororities and fraternities threw these parties all the time. And I remember they would like always. I was a bartender, and they would all come into the bar after those parties in the shirts, and I would just be like, "This is."
Weird.
Yep.
Whenever I asked what the yellow meant, nobody had like a solid answer on what yellow meant.
I don't really think you're supposed to
in
wear
this
yellow.
new age, it could just be like
In an open
like,
relationship?
Yeah, that's
That's
what
what I
I
thought.
feel like it could be.
Non-traditional
Yeah.
relationships,
Partnered, but
but traditional stoplights.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if someone was throwing that party and then they like for some reason wanted us to be there, like the chain of like contact that would happen. I feel like my stipulation would be like, okay, we need to have a conversation about how like just because someone's wearing a green ass shirt doesn't mean that
they want to
wanna
talk to
Yeah.
you.
smooch you or whatever. Like then okay, because like that makes me think too. Like when we were at a festival once, this dude was walking around with these little. It was like basically a raffle ticket that had like that said like, do you want to fuck on it?
Ooh.
And he was like going around and giving them to people, and it was like he was like it's consent, right? Like I'm asking them, and like they can say no, and like we had attempted to have a more nuanced conversation of like the fact that you're even doing that is like. Crossing people's boundaries super hard like, before you even talk to them, like, and the fact that you feel like you can like get away with it is like really grimy. Like all these things, like I think, yeah. So it's like, here's the thing: consent's way more like nuanced and complicated than it.
Yeah, you can't just wear a green shirt and like be down for. I don't know. I don't like those parties, but that's because I have flashbacks to all the sororities and fraternities
that's
in
fair.
Georgia. But yeah, maybe if we could have a conversation and someone invited us there.
Like I know that
I went to art school.
this one like cover band show I went to, they did it, and I mean they had a lot of people there. It was like a meetup event. Yeah, so they had like a bunch of people there like for that meetup, and it just happened to be a stoplight party at a show. So I'm like, well, I mean, it's all worlds colliding here, but yeah, it's like it's the same like group of like
chaos.
it's the same group of like you're inviting in this situation into a venue, and it's like, oh, it's college all over again.
Yeah.
But it's like you're out of college now, you're in the big bad real world, and like hoping for the best at Cubby Bear in Wrigleyville.
Oh no.
Listen, I play at Cubby Bear Wrigleyville quite a bit, and they're a wonderful establishment full of lovely people. They can't control who comes in really wasted.
Can I?
That's a whole nother monster.
Can I
in
say
itself.
something that will just show how naive and like how much of a goofball that I am? For the longest time, I thought Cubby Bear was like a bear bar, like a gay bar.
Super okay.
No, Motherfolk was playing there once, and I was really stoked. That was the same band that recently was at Sub T, and I didn't end up going. But I thought the same thing. But then someone was like, "No, it's in Wrigleyville," and I was like, "I don't want to drive over there."
It took me till someone, I don't even know who, but somebody was like playing there, and I was like, that does not match up. Like before I questioned it at all. For those listening at home, Mushroom just curled into the tiniest little ball.
Yep.
She's very cuddly, especially now that it's winter.
Especially. We've got a little around 20 minutes or so. I want to be sure that.
Of actual content that you can.
Well, all right, now it's time to start the episode, guys.
Yeah, all right, guys, let's go.
Begin.
Delete recording. No, I just want to make sure we wrap up on time because people got stuff, and I don't want to keep anybody. And Mushroom's got to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So we can probably just talk about the event and what songs we're gonna sing.
Yeah, everyone, what My Chemical Romance song are you gonna sing? I'm kidding.
Did you guys get tickets?
I did. I had 10 computers up
do
at work.
not
One
want-
of them got through.
That's wild. Did you see that?
I kept it up for him and it didn't go through. I'm so sorry.
They're not doing a tour, right? They're just playing one
they're going to do a
show.
tour.
They're
But the ticket that you got wasn't for what?
It's just for a one-off.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So they're
I booked a flight out to LA and I booked a
One of our
Airbnb.
interns also did that.
Oh, really? Let's hang because I'm going
That's
pretty much
wild.
by myself for the rest of the
I'll
weekend.
talk to them and see.
Yay!
Yeah. When is the show?
December 20th.
Okay.
There's people saying that they're gonna line up overnight, and I'm like, we're not doing that.
No, you'll be fine.
No, we're not doing that.
Did you see the tweet that was like, I can't believe the Chicago Teachers Union bargained the
I
microphone?
retweeted that hard. I had night class. God, when was it? Yeah, I had night class that night, and I went to class, and there's a girl who is in the Chicago Teachers Union, and I was like, yo, so thanks for that. I appreciate it. She was like,
so much.
and it just went over her head. I was like, thank you. My Halloween's better.
Yeah.
Even though I'm in this class.
Well.
Yeah.
So what
So
songs?
the event is this Wednesday,
November 20th.
November 20th at 8 p.m.
9 p.m.
9 p.m. But come early. The bench's open.
Come early.
We just won't be
It's fun.
starting
Emporium's
early.
open already.
Emporium's nice. You can chill,
Yeah.
hang, play some video
Oh,
games.
it's great. Yeah.
Also, if you want to, I don't know, scope it out beforehand, if you're a nervous person, they are doing a winter coat, hat, scarf drive. It ends right before
Gotcha.
the event. I think it ends the day before.
Yeah, it is
But,
the 19th. So
Yeah. So
go a day before.
Go a day
Drop off
before.
some stuff for.
drop off your stuff.
Yeah. So what songs are you guys gonna sing?
Here's the thing. Well, you may remember the last time that Omen B was on this podcast, we talked about karaoke, and Matt Walsh said he hated karaoke, and
I
didn't sing
replaced
songs.
him with that hate.
So there we
I
go.
have Al, who's wonderful and talented and brilliant, and also hates karaoke.
Oh.
But
Damn.
I might make an exception. We'll see if I have any beers.
Okay.
Just kidding.
That's fair.
I don't know. What song would we do if we did one? Or do we have to do a duet?
we're doing a duet?
Earlier you asked if I would do a duet with you, and I said no.
Obviously, we would do Islands in the Stream.
I don't think we have that. Is that a cover? Did Hawthorne Heights do a cover of Islands in the Stream?
their entire process.
She
Yeah.
loves Dolly Parton.
True story. I do. Truefacts.com. I am Dolly Parton's biggest fan.
I get that.
I would have to do an All American Rejects. Are they emo or are they
Yeah.
pop? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll put them in there.
Yeah.
The All American Rejects were the very first concert I ever went to.
Aww.
And my mom paid extra so I could meet them afterwards at a meet and greet. I was 12
Oh my
and I
God.
said 0 words. And I came out and my mom was like, "What'd you say?" And I was like, literally nothing. I had Tyson Mitter sign my piece of paper and ran away because I was madly in love with him. Which is wild because I was 12 and he was probably 18 and I remember thinking he was so old. And then he grew up and married a girl named Elle just to fuck with me. Her name is now Elle Ritter.
Oh my God.
Oh wow. There's a lot to unpack
What I used to
here.
write on my notebook in middle school.
Over and over.
Wow.
All American Rejects would probably be one of my songs, my song choices.
That's good.
What?
The Wonder Years.
What emo song would I do? So I love karaoke. My jam that brings the house down is Mother by Danzig.
Oh.
But I don't know
Yeah.
if that fits in the...
I don't know if all
I
the
can make
emo
it
kids
happen.
there would know, unfortunately. We would know. We would definitely
I make
know.
I make
Lizzie, for
some
your support.
exceptions. I make very few exceptions,
Yeah,
but I
he'll
make
never
some
play
exceptions.
Jonas Brothers for me at emo night.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm with them on that one.
Yeah,
I don't like
but
any of this anymore.
it's still within the realm because Misfits and Danzig and all that, and it's in the same general genre.
And I was definitely listening to that while I was also listening to Census Fail and Brand
Yeah.
New and all of
Yeah.
the bands in high
Yeah.
school. So the overlap is there for me personally. What else? Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that Brand New is officially off the table because
that would have been the song we would have done together
Yeah.
probably, but we
Yeah.
can't do that.
we'll have to look into it.
correct.
Yeah, I'm very
What was it? What was I?
Newfound Glory was my jam. No? Okay.
No.
Before Riot Fest, my friends were joking that I was like cramming for a final. Like I started listening to all the bands that were playing Riot Fest that I hadn't listened to in years, but I was like really excited about. Like for like 2 weeks straight. That's all I
did the
listened
same
to.
thing.
And then you know, like Census Fail was a big one. Learned that the lead singer is like a low key gay icon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like super here for it.
Oh yeah.
So maybe
He also,
that's all.
at some point, decided I'm just gonna wear the best short sleeve button ups.
Yeah,
I'm like,
100%.
what the fuck? How do I?
He's
where are
really
they from?
like just like the best gay icon. I don't know why anybody's really not picking up on him, to be 100% honest.
Oh my god.
And his party
His
shirt game
tweets,
is so
too.
good.
Yeah.
He comes for people on Twitter too.
Yeah, he does.
I'm so bad at Twitter.
Do you want to know this? Okay, so this is a deep cut. Do you know how Drive Thru Records had a DVD that they put out in like the early 2000s? Mm-hmm. Have you seen it? Are you humming?
No, like I know about it. I've just never seen it because
so
I've done
excited.
I think
research on
that
it.
I honestly think it's one of the DVDs they have at Beauty Bar for Sunday nights.
Okay.
That they play it like on the
screen,
back right
yeah, the
there.
back.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they like have it like playing in the background while they're playing like a bunch of music.
Wow. Well, I'll bring my copy in case you want to do the same.
Yeah.
But like it was, I watched it so many times when I was like, you know, whenever it came out, 16, 17. And because it was like, honestly, only a third live performances and 2/3 just all the dudes in those bands like being idiot teenagers and stuff like, on tour. And that's when I fell in love with Census Fail. Because they played the best pranks.
Yeah.
Their pranks were the best.
That's a good turn, but I just felt like this was the moment where
This
I
is
could like
this
be
is the
seen
this is the space.
in that memory.
This is definitely where somebody's going to be driving in their cars and then go, I have seen that.
They're gonna be like, that's me too.
They did play the best pranks. That's right.
And I remember one of the members of the band was like so young that he had to take high school classes like while they were on tour. Oh my god. And there was like a scene where he was talking about The Great Gatsby.
Oh my god.
That's the greatest piece of literature
I
ever written.
was like reading that in school at the time, and I was just like, what?
Can we both talk about the green light too?
The Great Gatsby is a book about a man named Gatsby.
Jay Gatsby, old sport.
End of report.
F. Scott Fitzgerald. That's how he said it.
Wow.
Anyway.
Do you still own the CBD?
I think I do.
Oh, God.
Did you watch it before Riot Fest?
I should
That was part of your
I
preparation.
really should have been your Riot Fest cram.
I really blew it. So maybe I'll do some more cramming and I'll do a Census Fail song.
Yeah.
That would be fun. That would be silly. That'd be
That
super
would be
silly.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Lizzie, what are you doing this time?
I haven't thought that much through.
I just stalled for so long.
I know.
You had so much time.
Well, I was
Such a long
thinking,
story.
I mean, I usually do a Fall Out Boy song, or I did All Time Low last time, but I think it might be vibing with more Fall Out Boy, and then we have to pick whatever song we do at the intro.
Yeah, we do one. That's the only one I do.
That's the only one he does, but we do it to like show people. So I have a feeling I know which one we're probably gonna do.
Is it a surprise?
No, it's probably Mike Hem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's usually Mike Hem. It's like let's just get them.
But I didn't want to like spoil it for people who are listening.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
I'm gonna come and they're gonna be like, oh, I wanted to do that.
If you've
song.
been to any of the previous ones, it's
You know
probably
what
going to
it
be
is.
similar, if not the exact same.
Yeah, so you all better just be ready to get hyped for it. Anyway, so here we
Yeah.
are. But but I probably like Fall Out Boy or My Cab most likely.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, that's all I pretty much listen to.
I have a question. So we've tabled the last two, you know, so we've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
Mushroom, you are 1,000 degrees. So do people ever do like not super old, like early 2000s, late 90s, like emo stuff? Like, because I also am super into like Saves the Day and stuff, and I don't think anyone ever did that when I went before.
So here's what happens. People will write down the songs they want to do. And a lot of people come up and they're like, I don't know what song I want to do. And I was like, well, it's pretty much any emo song. And then they come up with like 5 bands that are like not emo.
Like somebody be like, I want to do Avenged Sevenfold. That's not emo.
And it's like a 7-minute song that nobody knows, and it's mostly guitar solos. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. But eventually, I just start getting like tired of it, and people are like requesting enough, and I have like enough people that are going to sing that like I just say write anything you want down, and then I just don't pick them. essentially what the night is like you are picking a song and then I am DJing your songs and you are singing them on the stage.
Yeah.
That's the idea. So it's like you still got to play all the bangers because people are not going to be interested in hearing songs they don't know.
Yeah.
Saves the Day I think would be absolutely fine. I love Saves the Day. I would play that. We also have a rule that we play any Alkaline Trio song that people request because
it's Alkaline Trio. You
respect
legally
Alkaline
have to do
Trio
it.
and we love it. So
if you don't like Alkaline Trio, I need you to get the fuck out.
There are a lot of people. A lot of people are
hero.
like, "Oh, I don't know the song," and I was like, "Yeah, you should fucking learn. I told you the last time."
Like this
you
sounds
have
like
all
a
the
you
time.
problem now.
You have all the time. You have a Spotify account. Just all you have to do is shuffle.
Alkaline Trio
go.
has been around for forever.
Forever.
That's
They
it. I don't
give
even
you-
know how long. Forever.
They give you their
They
top
live
5
here.
songs. All you have to do is learn their top 5 songs. All you have to do. All you have to do is learn their top 5 songs.
What is your like allegiance to Alkaline Trio? Like what?
I just
They're
fucking
just
love
so
Alkaline
good.
Trio.
They're just so good.
They're from Chicago. They're very good.
Very nice people.
Mushroom agrees.
I assume.
No, I just absolutely love Alkaline Trio. And yeah, just because they're from Chicago. It's like
I mean, I think radio really got me through some big emotional shit.
Yeah.
Personally, and still does.
yeah. They sing about Chicago a lot.
They do.
They do.
People from Chicago love things about Chicago. I'm sure you've learned that since
Yeah.
you've
Super
been here.
Chicagoans love it.
Yeah.
The greatest.
And it's also like one of those things where I'm like, I believe that because I have been entrusted with the power of the DJing, that I can play whatever I
I was
want.
like, what is he saying?
I just
Karaoke.
I just say things with the yeah. I'm a
KJ.
yeah karaoke disc jockey. I don't know. It's all off of my computer. It's not really anything. But yeah, it's like I want to play music that people should know as well as playing the music that people want to hear. So I go a little bit rogue with some Alkaline Trio, but that's the only band that I'm like, I'm going rogue with you. Everything else is usually like bangers. So people come up and they're like, oh yeah, I think I want to do like a Fall Out Boy song. And I'm like, yeah, which one? And then they pick like a random B-side. I'm like, just do Sugar. Like, what are you doing?
Except
Like-
that's me. I'm coming up doing. Let me do a B-side.
But I'm like, no one's doing Sugar. Like, no one's picked Misery Business. No one's picked like I
You
Write
wanna be
Sins.
different.
Like
Maybe
no one.
we listen
no.
to
But the problem is,
Genethus on
everybody-
repeat for self-care. Okay.
everybody wants to be different, and sometimes you just got to be best. So like I just want people to like go up there and like I want them to have the audience behind them because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know all the words, and it's like it doesn't really matter. Like it's all gonna be playing behind you. I'm playing the music video behind you. Everybody else knows the words or they don't know the words. Everybody's just screaming along with you. People are moshing. People are just having a good time. It all doesn't matter. I just want you to be able to go up there and like have a really good time because everybody knows what you're singing.
And you're on
So
a stage.
rather than like
Like take advantage of the fact that a lot of people like I don't have any fucking
Yeah.
singing capabilities, but oh, you're on a stage, like go
this
off.
is your time to do what you do in the shower or in front of the mirror, like
or in your
front of a room,
bedrooms
and
or
have
in
people
front of-
like
I don't know where you're
Karaoke.
going.
cheering for you and cheering for you.
office,
Like
I don't know.
Describing Elle's nightmare right
Yeah.
now.
Nightmares. That's why I hate karaoke.
Everyone listening is like getting a tear in their eye. They're feeling so
like, oh,
inspired,
God.
and Elle is just like
introvert karaoke. No, I mean it's
Actually,
really
I've had
like
sevenfold nightmare.
it's supposed to kind of be like that, like confidence boost of like everybody's there for the success of everybody else, and like I think ever since we started doing it, it's always been that like community feel around it, where like we wanted to do it as the charity events because it like just makes a lot of sense. Like everybody's there hyping up everybody to do like something that probably makes them feel a little uncomfortable. Sometimes people are like really into it, and I'm like hell yeah. And sometimes people are like kind of into it, and everybody reacts the exact same way. They're like arms up, moshing, singing along.
Yeah.
It's all just like that. So you don't have to be nervous, but like pick a banger. Like don't go out there and be like, I just want to do the B-side. It happens all the time. It's literally all the time.
I want to do a My Chem B-side.
I'll let you do it. My Chem is big enough. Fall Out Boy's big enough. Panic is big enough.
yes,
but if
yeah.
you're like, I want like this, Census Fail B-side, I'd be like,
Maggie.
do Bite to Break School. What are you doing?
Me coming up,
Do-
being
do-
like, can I do any Starry Lang song that isn't best of me? And you're like, ma'am.
You can do Bedroom Talk.
Okay.
You can do Leaving. You can do the other one. The one off the island one. Anyway, yeah. So we will see you on November 20th. Just want to say thank you to our guests,
Thank
Maggie
you
and
guys.
Elle. Thank you guys for coming on.
We're very
And
excited.
Yeah, this is a partnership that's been ready to happen. I'm very glad that we could be supporting you guys with this event. So we hope to see you there. And from all of us here at the Emo Social Club Podcast, I'm Brian.
I'm Lizzie. I didn't know which way we were going.
It's fine. And goodbye. End of episode.